Hello and good afternoon. Is it good evening to all the people who have appeared here? So interesting to see a good number of people who may still not have taken your science paper. So you are here. Maybe some of you have already finished your science paper. So let's see how many of you have completed your science paper. You can just tell me in the chat below that you have finished your science paper. Science paper this Friday. A lot of schools are having it on Friday. Who else is going to join the you got on Friday? Same. Mine is on the 11th, same. Natalie, you said yours is on the 11th, then you said same. Are you agreeing to someone else's comment? Mine is tomorrow. That's great. Okay, so good timing. Those of you who have it on Friday and on the 11th or tomorrow, which is the 6th of October, good timing to come here and have a little bit of science lesson or science input into your brain, the brain waves. Those of you even may have some geography or history for tomorrow. It's still good idea to spend 1 hour with me to prepare a little bit of science, because if you miss the class, then you actually missed a critical preparation point that might have helped you, right? So you may say, oh, tomorrow is my geography paper. I don't study science now. I'll study science on Thursday, or study science next Monday. But still, you can study whatever subject you have tomorrow, the whole day after 7 o'clock, the whole night after 7. So until 7 o'clock, we try to tune into the science channel for a while and see if we can set our science waves in motion so that we are a little bit more in tune with what we need to do for exams. Okay, so I'm sure you'll take back a lot of learning tips from today's lesson. So let's begin, and I have some surprise for you also at 6:30. So stay tuned for that surprise. Okay, so don't go away before 6:30. Fine, right? If you can see my screen, give me a thumbs up, then we can begin. Okay. All good. Okay, let's look. Last time out, okay, it wasn't too long ago. Actually, we met. Usually, we meet every month, but because your exams are coming, we meet earlier, and that's what happened for your math last week as well, right? We pushed all the lessons for October to the early part of October so that you get benefit from this one additional class before the exams. Nobody wants to have an additional class after the exams, right? Yeah. Okay. Let's carry on. Okay, the last time, like I said, 2 weeks ago, we did the MCQ section of this paper. Okay, we would have Sec 1 and Sec 2 questions today, for those of you who are interested to know. Okay, if you are in Sec 1, just hang on. I'll do more Sec 1 topics today as well. And some extra revision, which I said I have a surprise for you at 6:30, right? So that one, everyone can get involved. So from now till 6:30, we'll just finish looking at the paper to make sure there are no questions with regards to this paper. Okay, number 31, very simple, state the term used. So you need to know the term, the differences between population, habitat, community, and so on and so forth. And like I said, Sec 2 doesn't mean Sec 1 cannot get involved. Sec 2, we also do topics that have been done in primary 6. So all of us can get involved. This is a community where there's a lot of food chain, and this is not a habitat, right? Because a habitat is the place where they live. Did they tell you where they live? They do. Wild fruit tree. So that's where the habitat is. So if they ever ask you what the habitat is, then that's the place where it's living. And what's population? Population refers to one type of organism. Is that clear? So humans, population. Rat, population. Horse, population, including the adults and the babies. All of them. So for humans, a baby is also a human. So you must add the baby in the count. As long as they are born, they are alive, it's count as a population. So you got population and also population number. So when you say population number, you give me the number of people. If I say what's the population, you give the name of the population. Okay, that's the difference. Okay, I hope you guys are able to see the differences of these terms. Hence, that's why this question is focusing on community. List a food chain that contains foliage and bark, which provides the least amount of energy to the organism at the last trophic level. Oh my God, so many difficult words here. Foliage and bark. What's foliage and bark? Provides the least amount of energy to the organism at the last trophic level. Okay, foliage and bark. That's foliage is to do with vegetation, leaves, okay, and bark will be the trunks. So basically, it's kind of food, but the type of food is foliage and bark, meaning anything to do with vegetation. And they are going out in many, many ways to all kinds of animals, as you would expect. Okay, because the wild fruit tree, okay, is having the tree bark, the fruit itself, and the flowers. Okay, so that's where it starts. It's got three components, right? And that's where it starts. The three parts of this wild fruit tree are eaten by animals. And the foliage is eaten by at least 4 different organisms, populations. The fruits eaten by 3 populations. The flowers eaten by 2 populations. So you are able to count, okay? But now we focus on the foliage and bark, provide the least amount of energy to the organism at the last trophic level. What is last trophic level? At the end of the food chain. Okay, there you go. Right? List a food chain. The question was list a food chain. So you just have to start from wild fruit tree. But there's no arrow here. Okay, no arrow here because this one is not being eaten. It's just they are together. It's part of the foliage and bark of the wild fruit tree. So it's off. So you have to take this as 1. This is the first trophic level. Then goes to, you can choose that, like I said, you can choose flies or you can choose squirrels and so on, which provides the least amount of energy to the organism. What does that mean? Remember, every time somebody eats, there's an energy drop. You don't get the full 100% energy. How many percent energy do you get? Who can answer me in the chat? There's a percentage of energy that we make a count of how much energy you get from the food that you eat. Is it 90%, 80%, 70%? Who knows the answer? 10%. Alex is 10%. Yes. Okay, many of you don't know that. You kind of conveniently forgot that. So every time you get 10% of the food, the energy only. Okay. So as you move along, the energy gets dissipated further and further. You don't get so much energy from the foliage. So you must find the longest food chain to be able to have the least amount of energy left. Because the original energy comes from foliage and bark. Then 10% given to the flies. Then from there, another 10% only given to the spiders. Then another 10% only given to the swallows. And then finally, the kestrels. So this is the longest food chain. Is there any other food chain that has 4 organisms in the food chain after foliage? Okay, I don't see. All right, so that's why we chose this one. An outbreak of a certain disease caused many swallows to die. So I go straight in and zoom in on the swallows. How would the populations directly linked to the swallow be affected? Explain your answer. Okay, so you need to directly link to the swallow. You got to see beside them who they eat and who eats them, including the flies, including the moth caterpillars, including the aphids. You can see that the swallows have all these arrows coming in. Swallows actually eat spiders, flies, moth caterpillars, and aphids, and they are eaten by only one, that's the kestrels. So you have to write a story. I'm giving you 3 marks. Anybody can tell me? Yeah, it's pretty straightforward. Okay, Alex said this is even taught in primary, but we just make it a bit more complex and we teach you more complex terms like trophic levels and energy. So in primary school, we don't teach the energy levels in the food chain. Okay, so this should be pretty straightforward. So you should be able to see how the population gets affected if swallows begin to die. So if the reduction in the number of swallows, you just need to put an arrow down. This will cause spiders, flies, moth, caterpillars, and aphids population to increase because they don't have a predator anymore. So aphids, moth, caterpillars, flies, and spiders will increase in population. And kestrels, because they have one less food to eat, swallows, they will die. Not only eat, they will also might be eating diseased swallows because these swallows are going to die. Okay. So there you go. You write that down. All these answers are found in your mock paper exam answer sheet as well as uploaded later when I finish the class. All right. So let me look at I want to look at question. I'm going to jump about today. Okay, so just bear with me. Some questions are easy, like this one is a sound. Okay, I hope all of you don't get this kind of mistakes. Right? Try to measure the bounce of the sound. If Jill is shouting, then her voice will hit the cliff and travel this distance. So this is distance 1 and then distance 2. So you need to take the distance, divide by speed, means you know speed of sound is given as 330 meters per second in the question. Usually they will give it to you. So you only need to put in the distance and the time. So you could be asked for the time or you could be asked for the distance. So you always must take into account the distance traveled by the sound in an echo for bouncing off. That means it travels 2 times. So if you are one person and you have only a wall, if you shout and you hear your voice back, your echo is heard, let's say 5 seconds later. So actually it took 2.5 seconds to travel there and 2.5 seconds to travel back. So there's a 2D. Okay, if this is a 1D, then there's another D. So there's a 2D. 2D means 2 times of distance. And usually the question they will ask you, what is the distance? Then many of you write the 2D, not the 1D. Okay. Let's move on. So that's for the sound and echoes. Okay. Draw a circuit diagram, calculate resistance voltmeter. Okay, you need to always keep this triangle in mind. Okay, V, R, I. If this triangle is in your mind always, then you will remember the formula. To find V, you need to block V. Then the answer will be R times I. To find I, you need to block I. Then the answer will be V over R. Okay, what do I mean by block? You just take your finger and put on top of what you want. Say, for example, you want R. I put my finger and put on top of R, and I will only see V and I left. And I will see V as the numerator, I as the denominator. Therefore, the formula will become